Welcome back to Count Me In, IMA's podcast about all things affecting the accounting and finance world. I'm Mitch Rochong, and I will be your host for this episode. Today, you're going to hear Adam talk with Jose Zavala about how automation is the key to success of accounting and finance professionals. Jose explains the benefits, but he also addresses the challenges and pitfalls. He regularly helps firms save time and money through automation and has a great firsthand perspective on the topic. So, to hear more, we'll head over to their conversation now.
So, Jose, as we begin 2020, it seems that automation is a key word in accounting and finance, whether it's through RPA or machine learning. How have you seen automation in general impact the accounting and finance industry?
That's a really good question. For me, what I have seen is it, at least personally on my level, it allows you to essentially provide a better service to our clients. Because within this industry, at least my take on it is we need to be client facing. There are clients, we need to make sure they're getting. It's about customer service. And if we're too busy in the weeds or heads down, doing a lot of this, taking care of kind of a lot of these administrative tasks, or doing a lot of stuff that we can maybe push off to a bot or to a software to do, that takes away time from us to be able to be face first in front of our clients and helping them with those meetings as far as growth and things like that. So I think it's going to have a huge positive impact, because it's going to essentially give us back our time to provide those better services to our clients and start being that advisor, that investment for our clients, instead of being what, a lot of clients see us as an expense. Oh, I got to talk to my accountant. I got to talk to my tax preparer. I got to talk to my CPA. Where instead of doing that, they should be like, hey, I want to make this move. Let me call them to get their take on it before I make it, instead of, making the move and then later trying to figure out, oh, well, did I do it right? Well, it's kind of too late. It's already done. So that's how I think as far as automation goes, it's going to help us in this industry, because like I said, give us back that time to be able to then give that time to our clients and provide them much better service.
So as we look at that impact that you just mentioned of automation, what about a more holistic view of its benefits? What are some ways that an organization can cut costs through that automation?
Yeah, no, I think that's another great question, man. So I was actually on the Surge podcast with JJ the CPA, and one of the conversational topics we hit on there was invoicing. I know, and my background is public accounting, worked at CPA firms my whole career before I went out on my own, and I remember one of the big things was always billing. So you would take 2 or 3 days to sit down, go through the bills, and then having to do follow-up calls, and it was usually the managers doing a lot of that work. Do that. So that was a lot of, to me, admin time, that unbillable time that you could have. One of the things that I just by inputting something like a proposal software or automatic payment software that bills your clients automatically, let's say on a monthly basis for a monthly recurring revenue, you can go ahead and eliminate the need to have to build that, to have to sit down and have those conversations and, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to build this. We need to build that. Same thing as well. It removes if you're printing invoices, stuffing them into envelopes, mailing them out, and then having to do follow-up calls and have an admin person doing follow-up calls, trying to lock down those invoices. I feel like it takes a lot of time, and there are too many people, too many hands touching it, whenever it can be just one person making sure that looking at the software, making sure the software is correct, and then using that person's time, instead of non-billable work, maybe move them into a little bit more billable work, and get a little bit more out of them that way. So that's how I think it could essentially cut cost, is we can look at software and some of these different bots and things that are available to us as a way to, instead of paying a full-time employee, we would pay them at a third, a fourth, a fifth of the cost, and then make sure that the staff we do have, not to say to replace the staff, but take the staff we do have and give them more higher value work and actual billable work that we can bill back to the client, which then in turn will keep them happier, because they're moving away from just entering checks into a accounting software or just entering deposits. They're doing a lot more, maybe client facing, or maybe doing something else that you can play to their strengths. And then again, you increase essentially their output, and by output is more essentially, the billable output of them. So that's how I think it could cost that way.
So what if you've mentioned all this to somebody and they're like, Jose, I am still not convinced. You've given me these cost cutting measures, the general impact. Okay, I can see the impact, but what are the real benefits to me as an organization? And how does that trickle down to my employees? You mentioned one thing was giving the employees more high value work, but what else? What other benefits can they see?
So I think one for you as a business owner, essentially it takes, what it does, it eliminates a lot of those mundane administrative tasks that we have to do. Right now it's tax season. We're doing tax returns where, if you're in public accounting, you're in the grind right now. And one of the big things is, having to go in and one, having to make sure to, okay, do we have all our work papers in? Having to send emails and going through emails and trying to make sure you have all that information. Or same thing as well, kind of going back to one of the things that I see a lot is trying to lock down, let's say, client meetings. So you're trying to have a client meeting and you spend 3 or 4 emails emailing back and forth. Are you free this day? Are you free that day? And next thing you know, when something could have been scheduled that week, it gets pushed 2 or 3 weeks ahead because, you're going back and forth. And just little things like that kind of can help you save a little bit of time and bring a little bit of back of sanity back to you. And as far as your employees go, giving them the ability to essentially, again, go back to the higher level work. So instead of actually going in and having to input deposit slips or doing just basic data entry, you can move that away from them and have them do a little bit more of the actual review work, or actually, making sure that everything looks right, a little bit higher advisor role, and then be able to essentially give them, like I said, a little bit more higher value work, which will then, from what I've seen, at least personal experience on me, makes them a little bit happier. Makes them like I'm actually part of the team, get them more involved in the project, gets them more involved with the client, more interaction with them. And you start to see, at least we've seen it personally in my firm. I've gotten my staff a little bit more involved with some of our clients. And I mean, the output has been essentially doubled what they used to, and they're excited and they're ready. And I mean, I don't have to be on top of them for every single little thing. Now it could be just me. I could just been lucky with my staff, but I wanted to make sure to implement those processes and give them the ability to do that with some of this technology that's out there. So a quick example would be tax returns. You have a client that comes in and gives you a box of receipts, a box of bank statements. Traditionally, what we would do is go in Excel and just type in, okay, January, February, and kind of create a quick P&L statement that we can create inside there. So with the use of different of these kind of different applications that are out there, we use one called auto entry. You can actually take that, import those bank statements in. You get an Excel spreadsheet. So then you import that into your accounting software. We use Zero for our accounting software. And then they have a feature called cache coding, which you can mass reconcile transactions. So instead of having to individually reconcile a transaction, you can do all that. So what would normally take you 3-4 hours of having to, input and type it in that information into Excel to create a P&L, you can do it. You pay X amount of money depending on how many pages each bank statement has, and you turn around and you can create a P&L within 45 minutes. So it saves you back that time, which then allows you and your staff to work on more projects, and essentially increases your profit margin because you're essentially taking less time on each project.
You're taking less time, but you're also creating more long-term employees because they feel valued and that you're giving them more responsibility.
Exactly. I think you put it better than my long-winded explanation there. That's where I was trying to get to. So that's what I was trying to get to. Is they feel valued, and that's the word. They feel valued, and you empower them, and the more they feel valued, the more they want to do. And as you start to introduce some of these new applications and say, hey, this is how we do things, then they start to think, okay, how can I tweak this even more to maybe cut that 45 minutes, 30 minutes? And, and then they start to take that initiative, and then it's off of your hands. And the next thing you know, a project, it just keeps getting quicker and quicker and quicker, done quicker and quicker, but with the same level of same consistent work.
Mhm.
It's just, getting done in faster time because they're honing that processes, and if they buy into it, it's an amazing thing, because then, like I said, you just sit back and you're getting it, and again, you can take on more clients without having to throw more bodies at it.
So, we've been talking about all the benefits and the ways we can cut cost and of automation and RPA and AI. And all these are very popular terms in the industry, but there's kind of new. What are some pitfalls that organizations can be aware of and work to avoid when they're just starting out?
Oh, man, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you from experience. Just because there's an application out there or a software that's the industry standard doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. A lot of these sales guys out there will tell you, oh yeah, everybody uses it. There's a cookie cutter way. This is what you need to be using, this exact stack. And I'll tell you from experience, it doesn't necessarily work that way. There are some software applications that are industry standards that I use, that I enjoy, but there are some that I just don't fit into my workflow, and we use kind of other ones that are, their competition, which aren't considered an industry standard, and we use them just fine. What I would say is be careful about, do a little bit of research, but reach out to the community, reach out to other accounts, reach out to the people you see using the software. Most of the time, especially with at least the Zero community that we're a part of, you'll find some very collaborative accountants, bookkeepers, tax preparers, CPAs. What it is. You can reach out and say, hey, I want to use X software. I'm trying to find a workflow for how to capture receipts. Okay, there's different softwares you can use. This is what I use, and do that. Because what I did was I went and just demoed a bunch of stuff, would spend a bunch of money to implement something, and then it wouldn't work, or it didn't fit into my process. And then I tried another one, and it didn't work. The worst for me was project management. It took me 4 different softwares before I found one that I actually really enjoyed. And I mean, I'm okay with it because we learned. But if I would have actually reached out and talked to people, they would have told me, hey, at least one of them that I implemented, don't use, And so that's what I would say. That those are kind of the pitfalls. And then as well too, just, watch your costs, because I can't tell you how many times I try a software out and then I forget it. And then it just sits there, but my credit card is getting charged $15, $20 a month, for using it. I'm like, wait, I'm not even using this thing anymore. And then as well, automation and all this stuff, it's used to enhance the client experience. It's not supposed to be used to replace. So a lot of people, when they think about this, they think, oh, well, it's just going to help me. I'm not going to have to talk to my clients as much. I'm not going to, no. The whole point of this is to automate your processes or your client's processes, to give you guys back some time to then talk to your client. This isn't intended for you to distance yourself from the client, distance yourself from that. It's the way I see it, and the way I think it should be used is to get you back that time, to increase the relationship with your client, to increase that time you spent in front of them, talking to them and helping them with those bigger vision goals, instead of just, hey, here's a financial statement, have fun. And that's the one thing I think. Don't look at it as like, okay, because if you're coming into automation and you think that, oh, well, I don't even have to talk to the client. They can do this. They can set everything up, and we onboard them, and, we get everything out to them, and we just have a quick phone call. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but that defeats the purpose. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're all about client. It's all about the client and providing the best service to them. So that's what I would say is one of the pitfalls.
Now, you mentioned it when we were talking about pitfalls, but I wanted to ask you, I know that this has been my experience when I'm looking at a software or trying to figure out how to do things within softwares or different applications, finding a community of practitioners to discuss things with has always been an important place to bounce ideas off of. How important has that been for you as you've gone through your career?
Oh my God, 100%. I wouldn't be where I am without a community of people I can talk to. Like I said, I spent a good amount of money on this, learning on my own, and it's just not, ever since I reached out to the community and actually had people to talk to, it's so much easier. Because I mean, if you're looking for, let's say, a solution for bill, let's go back to bill pay, right? There's like 8 of them out there right now, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of them. And so which one's going to work for you? Well, then that's where you can go to the community and start asking questions like, hey, have you used this? Have you used that? What do you like? What don't you like? And for the most part, the community, at least the one I'm really active with the Zero community because I use Zero primarily. But, so with our community, we're very open, and any question you ask, anybody will just sit there and open up their playbook and be like, this is what I use. And this is how I do it. And if it works for you, great. If not, then, at least you know how it's used, and if it's going to fit into your workflow or not. So to me, that's super important. I wouldn't be anywhere where I'm at without the community itself.
Definitely. So to kind of wrap up our conversation, whether it's accounting, finance, general SaaS, or other business functions, what future implications do you envision being impacted by the future of technology and automation?
Well, I think, just our industry as a whole is just going to completely change. You've got more and more small business owners are starting to see, and even not even small business owners, but just, business owners overall are starting to see the power of automation and, these different applications and things like that. They're starting to recognize that. And so as a practitioner, we need to keep up with that as well. We need to keep up and make sure that we're providing the top tools for them, for our clients as well. And I think that it's going to come a point to where, at least in the accounting industry, where maybe before you competed on price and I can do it cheaper. It's going to be more now competing on that customer service or that client experience, and or maybe I might charge a little bit more, but their experience is going to be a lot better than if they're going with somebody cheaper, especially if you can sell that value, sell it or showcase that value that you are providing with them with some of these different tools you're using. So I think it's going to make a huge difference, and I think it's going to be a kind of a game changer, and it's going to help us out as well to be able to, again, maybe take a step back from just putting our heads down and getting the work done to maybe helping them and moving more back into that, moving us from an expense back into an investment in the eyes of our clients.
It's interesting as people talk about automation and AI, there's a fear that the human interaction is going to lessen. But from what I hear you saying, it seems like that the human interaction is going to be more important as those things become more prevalent.
Yeah, 100%. They're not perfect. None of these systems are perfect. You still need a set of human eyes to make sure what goes out is good. A robot, a system, a application cannot explain to a client why their cost of goods went up 30% over the last month. You can sit there and run a report and create, these fancy reports, but if a client doesn't know, they're not going to be able to understand that. Same thing as well. If a client has a call and they want to, let's say, a real estate investor, and they want to buy a new piece of property and they want to sell their old one, well, then, you want to make sure to walk them through a Section 1031 exchange and let them know exactly what that is to help them with that, or, different things like that. I think that's going to be, to me, it's enhanced it. I right now, I'll be real with you. I spend more FaceTime with my virtual clients than I do with my local clients. And with Zoom meetings and, things like that, it's made it possible for me to work with them. And I spend probably more time with them than I do like with some of my local clients.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.